tabulated to see how the warrants rank. The ranking itself is a city council adopted policy, and we look at point values for each criteria and assign a relative weight to it, and give a criteria summary of what those are going to add up to be. They all add up to 100%, and so that's how we do our ranking of our signal priority list. The intersections that we looked at back in April, these 6: Rock Springs, Lincoln, Harding, Lincoln, Loma Serenas, Via Rancho Parkway, South Broadway, Fifth Avenue, Sierra Linda, San Pasqual Road, Rose Street, and Oak Hill Drive. And these are the 15 locations we looked at for left turn phasing for north, south, or east, west. So we had a consultant evaluate our existing AM, PM, peak hour intersection level of service. Level of service is a ABCD through E, what the level of service of the roadway is going to be, and F if it's failing. So all the AM and the PM volumes were looked at. The delay was calculated using a synchro software, and it gives you an overview of how bad the signals are at AM or at the PM, if it's a signalized signal, and then how the level of service is at an intersection if it's not signalized. And those are the top 6 locations. Also tells you what the controls are existing at the intersection, if you have a stop sign in a two-way location or an all-way stop sign for the signals. So here are the results of our signal warrant analysis. All the 9 warrants or 8 warrants that I mentioned earlier are looked at, evaluated, tabulated, and gives you an overview of which warrants were met and not met. And then, as you see in warrant 7, it gives us a listing of number of crashes at that intersection from the time period that we looked at represents the 12-month between 2017 and 2019. Traffic signal ranking. So here's how we looked at the 6 intersections with the existing and existing with the new traffic signal, what would be the level of service at that and how much would the delay be. As you can see, Rock Springs and Lincoln, existing level of service, you get 1,000-second delay and in the morning and 225 seconds in the PM because it's an all-way stop. That's pretty bad. So with a signal, that improves to a level of service C and B with a 26 and a 17 or 18-second delay. So you can see how that goes. And then the rest of the warrants, you'll see that locations 4, 5, and 6 are not recommended for a traffic signal because they didn't meet all of the warrants, as you saw in the preceding table. Then we looked at the point warrant system. You can see that on table 13, how they rank with the points assigned. And so you have a total points of 39 for Rock Springs and Lincoln, 25 for Harding and Lincoln, and Loma Serenas and Via Ranchos at 25. So those 2 are at a tie. And then we look at collision history. For left turn phasing, we prioritize the signals as policy has worked well over the years. We've used the SANTAC and the HCM methodology to look at left turn phasing at an intersection. The criteria the first criteria is the volume. You need to have 200 vehicles, and if making a left turn, if the product of that and the turning vehicles exceeds 50,000, it warrants to put a left turn, protected left turn phasing in for that. And then you look at crashes and then speeds. And so we also distributed the percentages for those, volume being a higher requirement, 50%, crashes 25, and speeds at an approach intersection of 25% to rank those intersections. So here is the left-turn warrant summary. We looked at how much of the warrants were met for east-west direction, in which direction the left-turn phasing is recommended, if it met the warrants in the morning, met it in the afternoon, and then the maximum points and the percentages of the warrants that were met for that intersection. You had this in your staff report, and then also attached the consultant study with it. So here are the level of services for those left-turn phase recommendations. Location number 17, Ash and Lincoln, had an excessive delay. It actually degrades the intersection a lot more by just adding the left turn. And so we also looked at the collisions that are actually correctable for left turns at that intersection, and it looked like the cost to benefit was not going to be something that would warrant this intersection to be protected with the left turn phasing. So that intersection was dropped from our final list. This is our final list for the left turn phase ranking based on all the points, weighted scores, and the volumes and so forth. So this year, we get Bear Valley Parkway and Mary Lane being the top location for a left turn phase to be added on the north-south direction. Again, like I mentioned, that we looked at weighing these intersection with the scoring based on 50% on volumes, 25 on crashes, and then 25 for speeds for a total of 100%. And then you can see the list. We have Metcalf and then Quinns and so forth all the way down. Those are all ranked based on weighted average scores. And the final column that gives you the overall rank on the signal that are warranted. Usually we look at the top three now to get a design done to include the left turn phasing. And once we get this approved at City Council, after Commission endorses this report, we would look into getting an RFP out for design of those left turn modifications in. At this time, I make a motion for Commission to recommend the 3 intersections from the signal priority list and 14 from the signal modification list as prepared by a consultant to make a recommendation for City Council approval. Any questions?
Yes. Looking at the traffic signal warrant analysis, number 6, Rose Street, Oak Hill Drive, it does say that there's a long wait there of 69.3 seconds. What would cause that wait? I mean, I would assume that's traffic.
Yeah.
But apparently it doesn't meet any kind of traffic analysis on the warrants. It's like there's not enough traffic to warrant it, but there's enough traffic to make it a minute-long wait.
Well, for the...
They've had a couple of accidents there, so just, that one's confusing to me.
Which table are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at, this is for the traffic signals.
Okay.
Number 6 for Rose Street.
Oh, Rose and, yeah. So what happens over there, we drilled down at the intersection to look at what happens in the morning. There is a lot of people crossing. There's a school nearby, but it's too far away from this intersection. We usually look at schools within 500 to 600 feet. It's further away. So we have a higher volumes of pedestrian traffic in the morning crossing, and that is slowing down the people trying to, because it's an always stop right now. So people are crossing, the stop control traffic is waiting, and putting the data into the synchro files does give you an output of 69, which is seconds of level of service of F in the morning. So it's just that one peak hour of the day. You need to hit the 4 hours and the 8 hours of the day at that level of service to warrant a signal.
So I noticed we had the high level of, high delay on that, and the F level of service along with the 2 accidents. That's why I was asking, it just didn't make sense.
Just because of that morning.
And the other question I had then was on the left turn phasing, number 17, Ashton Lincoln, where if you added left turn phasing, it would make things worse.
Yeah.
What can you do, because that's already in pretty bad shape? What can be done to all that?
Yeah, it's a split phase intersection right now. So that also takes away from the time that's allocated for the east-west, because it's split phase north-south. There is, I believe, a future widening that might be done over there to increase capacity at the intersection. We looked at other alternatives. When you actually look at a signal, you look at roundabouts too. We thought maybe a roundabout would fit that situation, but we just don't have the right-of-way to put a full-blown roundabout in that location. You have 2 free right turns at the south leg of that intersection. But then there's also overhead utilities, wood power lines. It would be a very expensive proposition to put in a roundabout over there, but that would help the situation. But I think in the future CIP projects, there might be a widening that is programmed for that location.
Okay, thank you.
Question on, I believe there's already an existing list of traffic signal deeds the city maintains? The number of signals on there that aren't built yet, or just these 3?
Well, we have looked at, the volumes, the intersections that needed signals over the years, the last priority list, we have 3 of those done. I think we had 6.
Okay.
So these top 3 that are left over from that list were looked at, plus 3 more, but the 3 more that we looked at didn't warrant it.
Okay.
So those 3 rose to the top now.
Okay. So
we've had a list, yeah.
So these aren't added to another list. This would be the top 3 list that the city would have.
Yep, this is it now. Like I said, we looked at the 20-year list, and we have put in a lot of signals over the last 20 years. And so these are the 3 that are just pending to be done.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I got a question. In your table 16, alley, so how much of that is funded in the near term and constructible?
I don't have it in my PowerPoint.
It's a summary of cost estimates.
Oh, yeah.
It's your list, it's 5.5 million.
So funding on that, it depends on if we have a nearby development going in, we could trigger the development to put that in. We could program it in the CIP, it depends on annual funds, or we could apply for a grant application to install that signal like we did for the other 2, which we applied for the HSIP grant. So there's various ways you can get that signal funded. What we might have funded for the next fiscal cycle, I would probably defer that to Julie to give us a bit overview on.
Services. So we currently have a traffic signal modification that was number 1 on the list that is funded and is under design, and that's at Felicita and Escondido. So the funds that we have programmed at this point are intended to go toward that project. We expect at the end of that we'll have a little bit of funding left over that we hope to put toward the traffic signal mod list. And based on our CIP predictions, we're hoping to request on the order of about $250,000 per year toward signal mods and signal installations. One of the great things, we as Elise said, we were able to install 3 of the top 6. We've installed several signals over the last couple of years, largely through development projects. We also got a grant to install a couple of our top priority projects as well. So we've done well, and we also have a development project that is expected to install the top-ranked signal at Lincoln and Rock Springs. So we expect that project to install that. So we were able to get signals and signal mods installed in various ways, and we piece it together, but about $250,000 per year is what we're looking to budget toward those projects.
Okay.
Just to add to that, we did have our consultant do a conceptual for each location and a probable cost of construction, what it would cost, and that's that table 16. And that way we would have something to submit for a grant application as well, so that you already know that what needs to be done at that intersection.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve as presented by staff?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item up, speed surveys, various locations citywide.
Okay, so this is our usual reports that we bring in for certification of new speed surveys. To give you an overview of speed surveys, we periodically look at locations every 5, 7, or 10 years to make sure that conditions in the field haven't changed. We haven't done new striping, new signage, or anything else that might have changed to trigger. But usually every 5 or 7 years, we do a speed survey update to reflect the current conditions. 85th percentile speed limits are looked at to calculate prevailing speed, and then we use the California METCD speed limit criteria to post that to the nearest 5 mile per hour speed limit. To give you an example of what it looks like, if you got an 85th percentile of 37, that would round down to 35. If it's 38, we round it up to 40. Alternatively, if we have to round it up, and if there are unforeseeable conditions in the field, like hidden driveways or accident rates that are higher than normal, we may reduce the speed limit down by 5 miles per hour. And that's based on the California METCD 2012 edition, which is carried up to today, and a California Vehicle Code of 21400B that allows us to do that. We also look at our crossroads database, which is maintained by our police department. We look at the last 3 years of collisions at that intersection and or segment. And we also compare that to the statewide accident rates for similar roadway classifications. So the latest that we have from the state is a 2014 collision comparison. The 4-speed service coming to commission today are 11th Avenue between Hale and Valley, Broadway between Grand Avenue and 3rd Avenue, Rincon Avenue between Broadway and Conway, West Country Club between Center City and Broadway. The posted speeds are as shown. Most speeds turned out to be the same, except for one that went down, which is Rincon Avenue at the intersection of Rincon Avenue, because we added a 4-way stop. It used to be a 2-way stop. We updated it to a 4-way, so the speeds have gone down because of that. And so it's reduced from 45 miles per hour to 40. th Avenue, posted speed was 30, and I believe the 85th came out at 33, which would make it rounding up to 35, but we have a lot of residential driveways that are not readily apparent to the driver there, because one section of the street is undeveloped. And there's a vertical curve, and hang on, going the wrong way. So here's the overview of the street. As you can see, it's a downhill all the way to Hale from 11th. 11th is signalized. The southeast section of the street has driveways and it's unimproved, so that's a narrowed section of the roadway. Speed limits are usually done, or speed surveys are usually done mid-block. So this half, people were slow, and that half going downhill with the streets fully improved, people were a little bit faster. So we ended up getting a 35 roundup, but then due to unforeseeable conditions, and I believe the accident rate is okay. Actually, that's okay. So the 50th it's within the 50th percentile of the speed limit posting. We can't post it below 50th percentile, so we are rounding it back down by 5 miles per hour to maintain what it used to be. On the other side of the intersection, 11th Avenue going towards Del Dios Highway, I brought that to commission last time, and that went down to 30 also, so it makes it consistent all along the segment. The next one is West Country Club. It's posted 40. 85th came out at 45, as you can see here, and we are posting it down again to 40, rounding it down once 5 miles per hour, because the accident rate is higher over there than the comparison. It's 1.76 compared to 1.06 for a similar road statewide. And then 40 is still within the 50th percentile, and it is in compliance of CVC sections. So we are maintaining the speed there as it was. Here is the section of Country Club. We have a lot of signage out there for intersections, because there are a lot of intersections that are not readily apparent to a driver. So we posted signage out there. Posted speed is 40. We even have a radar speed sign out there. It's in a school zone as well. When you approach Broadway, we've got some schools up north on Broadway. Recommendation to commission is to approve all 4 speed surveys. Any questions?
I have a question on the Rincon Avenue one.
Sure.
What are the adjoining sides to it on the other side? Is this the only one that's going to be dropping down to 40, or before and after on that section on there? Do we know?
So this is 40. I believe that side, don't remember offhand. I think that's either 40 or 45. But if it is, you have a break with the always stop, and you can be within 5 miles per hour of posted speed limit on one section of the roadway as opposed to the other section. It does not create a speed trap.
But it would be that just side there would be too much of a distance in between the different changes between there. You're talking 5 miles and going back up, or would it be going? But since we don't know which each side of it is for the speed on each end of the speed surveys.
Well, we have,
So it would be going back up to 45?
let me check.
On Rincon? Okay.
It may be 45 on the east end.
Okay.
Yeah, but you got to stop at always stop and then.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We have a motion to approve as presented by staff.
Motion approved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item G, old business. Overview of various projects involving the city.
So just an overview of what signals we have in design. We have Felicita and Escondido Boulevard left turn facing. That design is complete. We are funding that through part of the ATP fund project, and I believe it's getting the rest of that project design. Once that's done, we'll put it out to bid. Traffic signals under construction. We have the hotel at La Terraza getting constructed right now. We have the El Norte bike path crossing near the bridge under construction with the bridge widening, and the bike pedestrian signal to be constructed soon. Gateway project adjacent to the transit center has 2 pedestrian crossing signals, one on Valley Parkway right in front of the transit center, and one on 2nd on the other side of the couplet. So there'll be 2 pedestrian crossing signals over there. And then the California Bank Trust at Quincy Valley had a left turn signal, a left turn added, and so we added another type 1 pole for the left turners over there. The traffic signals completed so far are the El Norte and Fig and the Valley Park Wind date. They were turned on early July. Notice of completion to City Council was September 11th.
Okay. Item H, school area safety.
Item A, Escondido High School. We had a field review of the traffic management plan with the principal and the Escondido Police Department. Amanda Phillips regarded routing the drop-off pickup as a part of the plan was being implemented for fall, and I believe it's probably done, or?
Yes, they instituted the right turn only during peak hours, and they've been seeing some improved traffic flow. It's always very helpful when EPD patrols during those traffics, but they have implemented that, and they've seen a reduction in the backup.
Excellent. Oh, that's good. No, I'm just, because Miriam's always looking at getting that done. Okay, Del Diaz Academy, bond improvements, signing and striping. Miriam was working on that. Can you give us an update?
Sure. We review the signing and striping plans provided by the consultant. That's on 9th, right, in front of Del Dios. And we haven't heard back. You know, they're going to implement they're doing slight widening on 9th Avenue, and they're going to add in maybe a right turn pocket just to enter into the parking lot for pickup and drop-off times. So that will definitely improve the traffic over there. And we still need to talk to the school district to see where they're at with their project and any updates on that.
Mission Middle School, bond improvements. We reviewed the on-site pedestrian design, and that was incorporated by the design engineer. So that was taken care of. San Pascal High School, we had a meeting with the principal last week, I believe, and we looked at the pickup and drop-off locations. They have it under control. We looked at some parking around the school, and we're going to install some new no stopping during school hour signage on Mary Lane around that school area. And we'll get the work order out for that. Central Elementary, we discussed with the principal safety concern at crosswalks on Broadway and Maple, and actually Miriam had that meeting in the field. You want to update us?
Sure. So we had a meeting with the principal as well as Compact and also school district. Thank you for arranging that. And the principal did express some concern at the crosswalk on Broadway and Maple at 4th Avenue, right outside of the school main entrance and also the back gates. And their concern is, cars are not yielding to pedestrians, and because of the wide street, cars kind of have like double park and then make illegal U-turns. I think PD has been out there to help out in the area. So we kind of mentioned to them, school district and Compact should consider that as a recommendation for next year's CMPL. They think that that's on the priority. So that's what we recommend to both the school district, principal, and Compact. And the principal appreciate that and hoping that the list next year.
Okay, item I, council actions, looks like there's none. Any other oral communications? Item J?
None.
None. Okay. Item K, transportation commissioners. Any questions or items for future discussion? Okay. Moving right along.
Good meeting, buddy.
Good meeting. Item L, adjournment. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.
That's the fastest meeting ever.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays to you all. It's coming up on us.
I was.
75 days.